He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Welcome back to the Ministry of Truth. I am your number one host, Avi. So I did promise you after last night, I was going to do the Donald Trump interview, which was pre-recorded, which kind of sucks. Because when you think about it, I kind of wanted to hear Donald Trump live reaction to the debate. But I guess he was too busy getting sleep, finding bail money and whatnot. But before we get to the video, this live interview, little something to get your blood flowing, little movie memories of Fast and Furious.
The Fast and the Furious is the Vin Diesel mega blockbuster hit movie where he showed the world that real adults solve all their problems with street races.
How you do it?
It starts off with the most needlessly elaborate and insane truck heists you'll see in the entire first half of the movie. They got word of a valuable shipment of analog TV
VCRs
in one.
Oh, I used to have one of those.
Revolutionize the world as we know it. This guy knows he's walking a razor's edge and must shoot his grappling hook in a way that will grab something of questionable strength while also making sure there's enough line so that if he falls, he'll be dead as anyways. Fucking nailed it, since truckers spend most of their time winning arm wrestling titles and fighting Mortal Kombat characters. This shit doesn't even move the needle, and the driver couldn't give less of a fuck. He's also armed with this little bat, which is the ideal choice when you want to protect yourself, but also don't really. After hitting him in the helmet pathetically for a while, he takes a compass to the arm, which knocks him the fuck out. So now they're in control and can fly under the radar by swerving all over the road and plowing through a roadblock.
That makes sense.
And construction zone, going 80 and doing whatever the fuck this is. If you're wondering why they didn't just wait until he stopped at a light or hit up a gas station, then you're a fucking nerd. Now we see Lance Harbor going to this cafe.
I'll have the tuna.
And holy shit.
Now, it was crappy yesterday. It was crappy the day before. Guess what? Hasn't changed.
If he could get that tuna sandwich without a side of bitch attitude, that would be fucking great. Just then, the forgotten Hemsworth brother shows up, and after getting lost in Lance's dreamy eyes, Lance starts to feel uncomfortable and decides to leave. But Hemsworth can't contain himself.
No!
And has some big news he has to get off his chest.
Try Fat Burger. You get yourself a double cheese with fries for $2.95.
But there's no way they can offer such incredible food at such a reasonable price, so it comes to blows. So Vin Diesel shows up and tells them Fat Burger uses no artificial flavors or preservatives, and to knock this shit off. That night, Lance is having a street race against Ja Rule, some Asian guy, and Vin Diesel. It's a hard-fought race where the drivers spend almost the entire time looking at everything other than where they're driving. Lance is even streaming, "You got fucking Swanson," while driving through wormholes and shit. But the real hero is this guy who is so fast he can signal the start of the race. And somehow be waiting for them all at the finish line.
9 seconds later, yeah.
While Vin may have squeaked by and won the quarter-mile race by barely a full minute, he ends up looking like the bitch when Lance drops this sick burn.
Dude, I almost had you.
Luckily for Vin, his humiliation is interrupted by the police, who show these mark-ass bustas what real reckless driving looks like.
Yeah.
But they don't know what they're up against, and when Vin ditches his car to go into a full Steven Seagal run, the cops get left in the fucking dust. Then Lance shows up and tells him the studio stepped in and demanded they do whatever it takes to make sure he never runs like that again. Things are going great until these bikers magically know Vin is in Lance's car and send some very mixed signals by telling him not to be there.
You stay away, I stay away.
While also making it really hard for him to leave. Well,
I mean,
that
Super
was
is better than Eclipse
weird.
anyway.
It's a long story.
But not nearly as weird as Lance getting busted by Buffalo Bill, who brings him to Carl fucking Winslow. While a Silence of the Lambs and Family Matters crossover is a hard pill to swallow.
All right, guys. All right.
It's so much easier with a chocolate milkshake from Fatburger made with real hand-scooped ice cream. Winslow has a sick burn of his own.
You want time? Find the magazine.
And tells us they think the recent rash of 18-wheeler hijackings involving grappling hook launchers and tricked-out Honda Civics might all be the work of the same crew.
Lab says the skid marks came back the same.
Because he works for the FBI, and they're fucking stupid. Anyways, Lance gets suspicious when Speedy Gonzalez shows up and buys like 10 grand worth of upgrades for 3 Honda Civics.
Yeah, 3 of everything.
And pays in cash. So he does the very legal thing of
Breaks
breaking into Speedy's garage. But the tires don't match, and he learns a valuable lesson in judging a book by its cover, and that cash
Check this out.
was probably just from dealing drugs. Then it turns out that Vince Hemsworth witnessed the whole thing and knows that committing burglary on one of their rivals is just the kind of thing a cop would do.
Moves like a cop.
So Lance thinks quick and manages to get out of it by going full Charles Manson.
This is about race wars.
Which they're into, and this movie has taken a really dark turn.
Let's go for a little ride.
But I guess that's what we're doing now. And next up are the Asians, who shouldn't be much of a threat since their cars don't have any fucking engines.
No engines.
And their supplier doesn't even think that's a problem.
Do you see anything wrong here? No.
So they make him drink motor oil. Which I'm all for, because fuck him.
We got no windows, do we?
That's some really stupid shit. Now that they've bonded over some well-deserved torture, Vin tells some family stories.
I watched my dad burn to death. I remembered hearing him scream. The people that were there said that he had died before the tanks blew. They said it was me who was screaming.
Which is a hilarious mix-up that they both get a good laugh out of. So to celebrate, Lance bangs Vin's sister in the back of an auto parts shop, which is a sign of true respect.
Yeah.
The next part is just for the gearheads and is extremely technical.
What's the retail on one of those? Ferrari.
They realize they're out of their league knowledge-wise and haul ass out of there to escape the shame. They try to put that incident behind them by making a toast to a beautiful future.
To race wars.
God damn it. Anyways, since these guys have been going around shooting submachine guns at shit and torturing people, they finally get busted.
Dope.
Not for any of that, but for having a bunch of DVD players. But the judge lets them go just because there was nothing illegal about that.
The DVD players were purchased legally.
And even if there was, breaking into people's garages because of something about a race war.
This is about race wars.
Is the most insane and unconstitutional thing she's ever seen. In other words, fuck that judge.
Was she a great big fat person?
For being a little bitch. The next day, he's pissed off about it.
Somebody knocked me out. It was you.
Which makes no sense because the DVD player thing wasn't even a crime. So what the fuck are you talking about? And fuck you too, just because. Now it's a dance party, but since nobody has a chance with any of the chicks, as long as this guy's fucking killing it, they decide to use this opportunity to do one last heist. Everything's going great, and as long as the seat cover that already has a giant hole in it can support a grown man's weight, and the truck driver maintains this exact speed and doesn't pull out a shotgun. And holy shit, now that they think about it, everything about this is really fucking stupid. Luckily, their contingency plan is somehow worse.
Unarm yourself.
But he's too dumb to work a carabiner. Which is a real shame because I really wanted to know where the fuck this was going. But it gets worse, and with expert aim, the truck driver takes out Vin Diesel's brake and taillight, which means he's now riding dirty. Then Michelle Rodriguez shows up and desperately tries to prove that she has an actual purpose in this movie.
Pull it up to distract them!
But then it starts to get tough. So she says, fuck that. Then we learn two things. One, Vince Hemsworth is a fucking idiot who gets tied up in the line he can't work the clip for. And two, this truck driver is a stone cold badass. But she's back and she's pissed. And now she's dead. Now Lance is their only chance, but by the time he makes it there, his hairline is doing terribly, and Vin Diesel's sister has had way too many fat burgers. But they owe Hemsworth everything for introducing them to the last great hamburger stand, so he hops over and shows him how clips work. And son of a bitch, why can't women stay on the fucking road? Oh well, now they're all back home when these guys show up again and rain bullets down on them again. But luckily, they only take out this guy that we don't really care about. And they both did it left-handed, so I gotta give props where it's due. Then Lance suddenly remembers, oh yeah, he's a cop, so he should probably kill them. So he chases them down. Then one starts chasing him, and everyone forgets Lance is in a car. Then Vin Diesel shows up, and he must have paid attention in science class, because he knows if you hit a bike with a car, the bike will fucking lose. Lance might not be the brightest, but he did get top Steven Seagal shots in the academy, so this guy is so fucked. Yep, he's dead, so he tells a bystander they should probably call someone.
You call 911!
And hauls ass out of there. Which is standard procedure. Now Lance Harbor and Vin Diesel decide to have one last quarter-mile race for some reason. And it takes them both an embarrassing 97 seconds. Whatever, because the not looking where they're driving thing finally catches up with them and takes Vin out.
Damn shame to do that in that car.
Fucking idiot. So after all that, Lance does the honorable thing and gives Vin his car. And by his car, I mean a car paid for by the taxpayers, because fuck them. But the movie ends on a high note and teaches the valuable lesson.
I had a dream. You and I were on a beach in Mexico.
That no matter how many terrible things you do, if you just run away from your problems, all your dreams can come true.
free.
15 movies later. Anyway, now let's get to the main event. Like I said, I don't really I thought it was gonna be a live simulcast, but pre-recorded event, I guess, looks even better. I don't know. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump interview with Tucker Carlson.
It's debate night, but we're not in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Mr. President, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them, but you see the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And, you know, some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that? And a network that isn't particularly friendly to me, frankly. You know, they were backing Ron DeSanctimonious like crazy, and now they've given up on him. I mean, it's a lost cause. It reminded me very much of 2016. You know, in 2016,
Does Tucker know anything about Fox News?
And had to fight them all the way. And then they became very friendly after I won, or just about when I was winning. But I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one problem leading by 70 points. And I'm saying, why am I doing it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate. I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me, all of which I love answering, I love doing, but it doesn't make sense to do them. So I've taken a pass, as you probably noticed.
Well, I did. I'm grateful that you did. It's interesting, though, because you spent a lot of your career in television.
Yeah.
You had a top show in television on NBC. But you don't feel the need now running for president to do television, obviously. Do you think television is declining?
Well, according to a poll that I guess we just saw, it just came out where it's down like 30, 35%. But I think they were referring to cable. I think cable's down because it's lost credibility. MSNBC, or as they say, MSDNC, is so bad. It's so wrong what they write and what they do and what they say. It's, you know, it's fake news, as I said. I think I came up with that term. I hope I did, because it's a good one. It's not tough enough anymore. It's corrupt news. You know, really what you do is call corrupt news, but somehow that doesn't play as nicely. But it is corrupt news. So you have MSNBC and you have CNN, who's absolutely doing no ratings at all. I mean, they're dead. But they're doing none because they don't have credibility. They really don't have credibility. Fox is way down, as you know. And the good old days are long ago. I will say this, it could come back, but they just don't have a lot of credibility, Tucker. You know that perhaps
none of the
better than
news
anybody.
sources do.
I think it was a terrible move getting rid of you. You were number one on television, and all of a sudden we're doing this interview, but we'll get bigger ratings using this crazy forum that you're using than probably the debate or competition.
When you say there are people on stage who shouldn't be running for president, who do you mean?
Pence.
Well, I don't want to really use names, but it wouldn't matter too much. A guy like, I call him Ada Hutchinson. It's Asa, but I call him Ada.
Why do you call him Ada?
Yeah. You know, I could tell you, but I don't want to get myself in a little trouble. But he's weak and pathetic, and he was, I never understood the guy, never knew him. He was the governor of Arkansas, not a very popular guy. I don't know how but that state is such a great state. The people are so incredible in that state, and they love me and I love them. How does this guy get elected governor of Arkansas? But he's nasty always, and has been. A guy like Chris Christie, the guy left with a 8%, think of it, 8% approval rating in New Jersey. Now he's running for president. And he runs solely on the basis, oh, let's get Trump. He's like a savage
8% approval
maniac. He's like a lunatic. And that's all he talks about. His poll numbers are very, very low. He's about 2%.
What's he like? You know him well.
No, I've been friendly with him over the years, but I couldn't give him a job because I just never trusted him very much. I was just never one of his people that really trusted him. I never gave him the job. And that's one of the reasons he feels so hurt and so betrayed. And I understand that. I really do. I understand it. But I never gave him, he wanted to be different things. He was looking at different elements of the administration. And I decided I didn't want to do it. And now I'm glad I did, because you see, but we had some some great people. I had great people. We'll have even better people if we do this, because now I know Washington. Before I didn't know Washington. But guys like Bill Barr were terrible. I mean, they were, I would say, bushies. I say that he can't lift his feet out of the grass. You know, it's only 2 inches at the White House, right? It's not a lot. But you watch him, and it looks like he's walking on toothpicks. So, and then you see him on the beach where he can't lift a chair. You know, those chairs are meant to be light, right? They're like 2 ounces. You lift them up. He can't lift the chair. He can't walk to the chair. And I don't know what they're doing with the beach. You know, this beach is seeming to play a big role, but they love pictures of him on the beach. I think he looks terrible on the beach. Looks terrible on the beach.
Skinny legs.
Well, he can't walk through the
With his
sand.
blonde
You know,
hair
sand
and
is not that easy to walk through, but when he walks through it, he can't walk through the sand. And there's somebody in there that thinks he looks fabulous at the beach. I think he looks horrible at the beach. Plus, the beach doesn't represent what a president's supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be working. You're supposed to be getting us out of that horrible, horrible war that we're very much involved in with Russia and Ukraine. You could do that. You could do that very easily. I believe you could do that I don't believe he could do it because he's just incompetent. But that's a war that should end immediately, not because of one side or the other, because hundreds of thousands of people are being killed. Can you imagine you're in an apartment house and rockets are going into that building and blowing it up and knocking it down? And who can, why should anybody, human beings, these are human, whether they're Russian or Ukrainian or whatever they are, it's got to be stopped. And it can't be stopped very easily. It would have never started. If I were president, it would have never started.
So back to Biden, I'm interested. So you think he's failing? He obviously is failing. I think it's clear to everybody. But that would make Kamala Harris the candidate?
Well, not really.
Not
I mean, I guess we'd have maybe a free-for-all. A lot of people say she has to remain for certain reasons the candidate. She has to. I don't think that's true, actually. I don't think that other people would stand for it. She has some bad moments. Her moments are almost as bad as his. I think his are worse, actually.
His are way worse.
But
she seems pretty senile, too.
She speaks in rhyme. You know, it's weird. It's weird. But she has bad moments. And
in rhyme? What do you?
Well, the way she talks, the bus will go here and then the bus will go there because that's what buses do. And it's weird. The whole thing is weird. This is not a president of the United States future. And I think they probably have some kind of a primary and other people will get involved.
Newsom, right? I mean,
Could
I can't wait to hear RFK on that.
He's got along well with him, believe it or not. But could be him, could be somebody else. He's got a big,
what is their debate?
A big load on his shoulders because you look at California, what's happened. But I don't know if the American people really, the people that vote for him, I don't even know if they care. You know, you look at so many of the things that are going on and people don't seem to be, in the old days, if you had a bad record, it meant a lot. Today, if you have a bad record, it doesn't really mean anything.
Makes
you know,
you
he
number
looks
one.
good. He's a nice looking guy, speaks well. But Biden, every time you watch him talking, it's like he's walking on eggs. You're waiting for him to collapse. And he almost always does. And I got to know the leaders of all of the countries, essentially, but the big ones. And the bigger, the tougher the leader. You know, it's
Well,
like,
it's like the
sort of, I
Democratic
guess
Party
maybe that's
doesn't
the way it's
plan on doing
supposed to be, but I got to know
debate
President Xi of China
as
and
of August
Putin
2nd.
and Kim Jong-un, North Korea. Did a great job with North Korea, kept us out of a nuclear war. We would have 40,000 dead soldiers right now. They'd drop
about
a
private
nuke right
deserter?
on top of the military base, but we have 40,000 soldiers over there. And I did great. I got along with them great. It's a good. That's a positive. You know, the press said he said nice things about Kim Jong-un. I also said horrible things at the beginning.
Rocket Man?
Horrible enough that he wanted to talk. And we talked and we met in Singapore. We met actually twice. And we had unbelievable meetings. I know him very well. We were in great shape with him.
What do you think he and Xi and Putin think of Biden?
I think they can't believe it. I think they probably say this is some kind of a system. You know, they had great respect for our country. They respected me. They had great respect for our country when I was there. Every one of them. Look, if you go to North Korea, you take a look at what happened. You know, the Olympics was dead. South Korea spent billions on the Olympics. Nobody was going to go. They didn't want to get blown up. They called me and they said, we are going to let the Olympics proceed. This is North Korea. I said, you should go into the Olympics. Put your athletes in. It wasn't like, you know, they were big on athletes because, you know.
Famine.
But they went in and they actually participated. And within about 2 days, the entire thing was sold out. And if it wasn't me, that would have never happened. But I got along very well with him, and that's a positive thing. He does have massive nuclear power, by the way. And if Hillary would have gotten in, or if the Obama thought process continued, it would have been a nuclear war, absolutely, with North Korea. He was expecting to go into a war, and it would have been a nuclear war.
So do you think the rest of the world looks on at Biden and thinks someone else has got to be running the government?
Well, somebody else has to be. I don't think he's capable of doing anything. Look, when I debated him, I said, how come, and this was in front of probably not a friend of yours, Chris Wallace. He was the moderator.
Not a friend.
Yep. I said, why is it he wants to be Mike, but he doesn't have the talent? It's one of those
bitchy little man.
He wanted to be his father, but he didn't have the talent of his father was great. His father,
little fussy man.
Wow. His father interviewed me in 60 Minutes. It was actually a 10. Can you believe it?
No, I totally. His father had talent, at least.
I may have been the only guy that he gave a good 60 Minutes to. He was rough.
Really?
His father was tough. He was great, though. He was great at what he did. But Chris Wallace was so upset. He was guarding this guy who wouldn't do a show, by the way. He wouldn't do. I figured I didn't mind Chris Wallace because Biden wouldn't do a show. And it was very obvious. He kept asking him and asking, but he wouldn't do the show. So I figured he's got to like me. But he came from a different planet. But remember when I asked the question, why is it that the mayor of Moscow's wife is allowed to give you $3.5 million? Don't forget, that was brought up. Now it's brought up all the time, but that was brought up by me long before anyone ever heard of it. I said, the mayor of Moscow's wife giving you $3.5 million. What did you do to deserve $3.5 million to Biden? And Chris Wallace said, this has nothing to do with the debate. I mean, he thought that you would have a runway that's
why is China
testing.
allowed to
is massive.
Conduct imperialism in our hemisphere?
Well, yeah, and it's far beyond Cuba. It's all over South America.
Yeah, in the Caribbean.
So we built a thing called the Panama Canal. We lost 35,000 people to the mosquito, malaria.
Yeah,
we lost 35,000 people building. We lost 35,000 people because of the mosquito. Vicious. They had to build under nets. It was one of the true great wonders of the world.
Whenever I deployed to Southwest Asia, we had to take a malaria prophylaxis every fucking day that we were there. And then for like 30 fucking days after we got back.
As he said, one of the 9 wonders of the world. No, it was one of the 7. It happened a little while ago, It says 9 wonders of the world. You could make 9 wonders. He would have been better off if he stuck with the 9 and just said, yeah, I think it's 9. But this is one of the true 7 wonders of the world. And you take a look at the Panama Canal. It was such an incredible engineering marvel. We sold it under Jimmy Carter. We sold it to Panama for $1. The following day, they quadrupled the amount of money that ships had to pay to get across. They didn't lose one ship. And now they've made it much bigger, and now they've widened it. They've doubled it, right? They've more than doubled it. And it's one of the most profitable things. Any time it's just incredible, right? We gave it away for $1. China now controls it. They actually control the Panama Canal. They run it, they control it. And we shouldn't let that happen. And we can't let China be in Cuba. And they'll get out. If I'm president, they'll get out. Because I had a very good relationship with President Xi, but he respected this country. He respected me. And he'll get out. And we can't let them run the Panama Canal. We built the Panama Canal. Should have never been given to Panama. We should have had it. But we gave it for $1. Think of it. They quadrupled. In one day, they lifted the fees, which are, pretty big for these massive ships to go through, right? Rather than going around the Cape and through all the tremendous storms, such beauty, when you
Panama Canal was given.
But you didn't want to get caught in those storms. Those were storms.
The Panamanians. I don't see anything after that.
And we go through the Panama Canal. We built it, and we gave it away for $1. Think of that. How stupid are we? We have done the stupidest things in this country, and now we have a president that can't put 2 sentences together. Can't speak, can't walk, can't talk. I don't think he gets to the starting gate, but these people do miracles. I mean, he ran out of his basement, and you got away with that one because of COVID, so he sort of got away with it. They cheated on the election. But you have people that are very smart, but they're fascists and they're radical left.
He's a robot.
And they're destroying our country with the all-electric cars and the windmills all over the place, which, by the way, don't work, and they're all, most of them made in China. For the most part, they're made in China. Germany a little bit, but
I'm
China.
gonna say Germany makes them.
But you look at what's happening to our country, even no voter
That's
ID.
where we get ours
Why
from.
don't they want voter ID? There's only one reason they don't want voter ID, because they want to cheat. I mean, who doesn't want, the Democrat convention, the last one, they had voter ID that was this big. It looked like a prison card, this big on their chest. You walked in, they had your picture, your this, your fingerprint, they had everything. The most incredible voter ID I've ever seen. That was to get into the Democrat National Convention.
Oh.
But to get in to vote,
like Flavor
if you buy groceries, if you buy practically anything now, you have ID on a card, credit cards or otherwise. And
they don't check
don't you
IDs
think
on
it's
cards.
racist to have to show your ID?
Well, they probably say that. They use anything not to show ID, because voter ID is pretty simple. And we could go back, and we should go back to all paper ballots, voter ID, same-day voting. France did it. France had mail-in ballots, and it was terrible. Anytime you have mail-in ballots, you're going to have massive cheating on your elections. Anytime, but not
That's
just
100%
the presidential election. Anytime.
with any
you have-
election.
Isn't that the whole point of them? So
Yeah.
you can
Oh,
cheat?
yeah, sure. It's their whole point. That's their whole point. They want to cheat. Yeah. They have to cheat because their policies are so bad that if they didn't cheat, they couldn't get elected. Who wants open borders? Who wants high taxes? Who wants high interest rates? Who wants to not be
me.
able to use a gas stove or have to drive an electric car, which, you have a 4-hour drive, but the car only goes an hour and a half. So you have to charge it. The happiest
take an
moment for
electric
somebody
Jeep
in an
out
electric
mud.
car is the first 10 minutes. In other words, you get it charged, and now for 10 minutes. The unhappiest part is the next hour, because you're petrified that you're not going to be found another charger. People, I'm saying, I'm not knocking electric cars, they're fine. They're fine. But if people want to buy a gasoline car or a hybrid, hybrids are pretty good, actually, but they should be allowed to buy. They don't want to do any of this. So right now, California's in a big brownout because their grid is a disaster. The grid all over the country is sort of a disaster, but the grid in California. And yet they want to have in a very short period of time, millions and millions of cars going off that grid, essentially. It doesn't work.
So plug your car into a grid that's failing.
You should be able to buy an electric car. Electric cars could be fine if you drive short distances and you want to have, whatever, and you have plug-ins everywhere you go. They could be fine. But you got to have gasoline cars. You got to have everything. Let people buy everything. Now there's the new thing is your heating systems in the house. They don't want you to have a modern day heating system. They want you to use a heating system that will cost you at least $10,000 to buy and won't work very well. None of the stuff works as well. One of the things I did with EPA is you have states, many states, most of the states have so much water. It comes out of heaven, right? The water pours down and you have it. It's there.
And it's underground.
Go wherever it goes, into the
Okay.
oceans, whatever. It's not like a big problem. Now, in some states, they have a problem. You have some desert areas and all, and for that, it's okay. But they have sinks where no water comes out. You turn it on, no water comes out.
Hawaii.
No water comes out of the shower. No water is allowed to go into the washing machine for your dishes or for your clothing or what. And I avoided all of that.
Wait, they have sinks where no water comes
Sure,
out?
you have restrictors. When I say no water, very little water. You want to wash your hands, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen this, and you turn on the sink and it's very little. Or you want to wash your beautiful hair, right? And you're standing under a shower. Then the suds never go. If the water comes out very slowly. I'm sure you've seen this. It usually takes place in new hotels and new homes.
Yeah, you
You
take
never
a drill
washed
and
your
take the...
hair with
They
a
have a
plummet
res-
water?
well, you can, but now they make it so you can't do that so easily. They have a restrictor. It's called a restrictor, and it restricts the water from coming out. So I ended all of that, and you have to see these. They let the water come out. You know what people do? They wash their hands like 5 times longer, or in the washing machine, they'll press for their, let's say, the dishwasher. They'll press it. Then they'll press it about 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
They'll end up using more water, and it still won't be very good. I met with the head of Whirlpool. They were practically going out of business during my administration, and they said to me, from Ohio, incredible, great state. I love Ohio. And they were really doing badly because people were dumping washing machines all over, mostly from
My
South Korea,
dishwasher's
but also
Whirlpool.
from China. And he was explaining it's
I just bought
just a
that like
terrible
8 months
situation. I
ago.
said, let me ask you, how's the quality? He says, we're better, but they are good enough quality. But, of course he's going to say that. But, they are
No, it's
better.
Maytag. Never
He
mind.
said, but they don't allow us. They're dumping these machines. They're cutting us in half. They're killing us. And on top of it, the government won't let us use water in our machines. I mean, he shows me like a quarter of a bottle of water. That's supposed to be washing clothing. And I
No
freed it all
way.
up, and I put tariffs on these countries that were selling and the machines coming into the country. And that company went from all the washing machine companies, they make washing machines, they make dryers, they make all of the different machines that do this kind of work, including dishwashers.
TVs.
And they went from a disaster area to being just thriving.
But can I ask
They
why-
love me in that part of Ohio.
Well, I bet they do, but why should EPA, no one at EPA was elected by anybody.
Yeah.
Why do they have the power to decide how much water your washing machine uses? Shouldn't Congress in a democracy get to vote on that?
Yeah, you could say that. They do things that are not very.
So how do you, that's my question. How do you, if you get elected again, go back to Washington, how do you keep the agencies under control? How do you keep FBI and CIA specifically under control?
The way you do it, like I fired Comey, that was a big deal. You know, a lot of people said, and I fired him very early. Somebody said, oh, I wish you would have fired him.
That's the past.
There's a real question about firing him. Anyway, you understand, because, you know, when they have a 10-year term, there is a question. I fired Comey. That was a great thing. If I didn't fire Comey, maybe I wouldn't be talking to you, or I'd be talking to you about real estate or something else other than politics, right? That was a coup, in my opinion. That was a very sick deal. That was the insurance policy. You remember the insurance policy? Oh, she's going to win, darling. She's going to win. But just in case she doesn't, we have an insurance policy. And insurance policy was what they were doing. And we caught them with that. That was a very important tweet or whatever it was, text. It was a big deal. That was a big deal. The insurance policy. She's going to win 100 million to 1. That's not good odds. At least they gave me one, right? 100 million to 1. But just in case she doesn't win, we have an insurance policy. And everybody said, that's strange. That's strange. But we caught all that because I fired Comey. Because when I fired Comey, it was like throwing a rock into a hornet's nest, into a nest of bees, and the place went crazy.
So when you were president, are you confident that you knew everything, say, CIA was doing around the world?
No, I'm not. It's a very interesting group of people. I had very good relationships, I thought, but I was a little surprised when I got out that, you know, things go on. Look, it's...
What were you surprised by?
I was surprised. I think it's some of the people. I was surprised that there was... I had a group of people. Look, we killed many, using the CIA, I have to say this, very bad actors. We were very good at it. You look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, bigger than Osama bin Laden. I mean, Osama bin Laden, but al-Baghdadi did ISIS, and he was rebuilding ISIS very strongly.
And that was the CIA that did that. Yep.
That was really us that did that.
Yeah.
That was really us that did that. And Soleimani was us that did that, not so much CIA.
Yeah, we know.
But we did some very good work with the CIA. What I started, you know, when I looked at the 51 intelligence agents saying that was the laptop from hell was Russia disinformation, when I took a look at that, I said, that's a horrible thing. They knew it wasn't. They knew it was not. And by the way, you're talking about cheating on the election? McLaughlin and Fabrizio, great pollsters, they said a thing like that plus other things meant anywhere from 10 to 17% of the vote would change.
Whatever happened to Mike Pence? You've always been nice to Pence. I've never heard you criticize Pence. You've defended him in public many, many times. He's out there attacking you. What is that?
So Mike wants to run for president. You got to understand, in my opinion, Mike Pence has the absolute right to send the votes back to the legislatures. The Democrats and everybody said, you don't have the right. In other words, what I said, is he a human conveyor belt? You mean if he finds fraud in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in any of these states, Arizona, he has to send them to Mitch McConnell, right? That's right, sir. Well, if he finds fraud, he has to? Yes, sir. I said, so he's a conveyor belt. Boom, put him in. I said, I don't agree with that. And we had some lawyers, not all, we had some lawyers that said, no, you do have the right to send them back to the legislatures to be rechecked. Because if you looked at what went on in Wisconsin, who, by the way, now agree with me, Wisconsin has been virtually, other than the fact they're not allowed to do anything statutorily, but Wisconsin has been I mean, what they found is incredible. I mean, we won Wisconsin, but Mike Pence had the right, in my opinion, to send him back.
Do you ever talk to him now?
No, I haven't spoken to him in a long time.
There we go.
I was very disappointed in him. I didn't want to do what Thomas Jefferson did. Thomas Jefferson, it was Georgia. And it was, hear ye, hear ye, the great state of Georgia is not capable or allowed to tabulate their votes. And Thomas Jefferson, who was the vice president, said, is Georgia sure that they cannot tabulate their votes? Georgia is sure. He didn't send it back and have them redo it. He said, we will keep the votes of the great state of Georgia for Thomas Jefferson and his president. I didn't ask him for that. Could have done that too, but I didn't. I thought that would be turmoil. I asked him to send him back to his legislature, to the legislatures, you know, in Wisconsin, let's say.
But why didn't he? I mean, you'd worked together for 4 years. I mean, you're the president, he's VP.
You had 2 months.
You say you're aligned on everything.
Almost 3 months.
I think he got very bad advice. I really do. Now, let me tell you what happened.
From the election day to
I sat there with a few people. I think his lawyer was in the room too. His lawyer was very much against it. There were other lawyers that felt you could do it. It was one of those things. I think you could have done it. I think you can always do something if you see fraud or if you see problems. But it's very interesting. So after the election was over, the rhinos got together with the Democrats and they redid the election, so you couldn't do it anymore. So then I called the people. I said, so in other words, you're saying I was right. You could do it. Yes, you could do it. In other words, they took the Voting Act and they redid it so the vice president no longer has the power to do what I said he could do. So when that happened, I said, wow. And, you know, you'd look some of these Democrats in the eye and they say, he has absolutely no right to do it. And immediately after the election, they met rhinos, could name them all, and Democrats, and they approved legislation that takes away the right of the vice president to do it. So I said, so you're saying I was right. The vice president did have the right to do it. And they said, yes, he did.
So if you're saying they stole it from you last time, why wouldn't they do the same this time?
Oh, well, they'll try. They're going to be trying, yeah. And not only me, you know. Look.
What do you mean, not only you?
DeSantis is out. I think he's gone. So he was at a level. People have figured him out. He's gone. But if somebody else got in, other than me, they'll go at him just as viciously as they did me. These people are sick. They will go after them. And
Dude,
a lot of people say, who do you honestly think
if you don't get elected?
I do get credit for holding up quite well, I must tell you. I think it's.
How do you do that? How do you get indicted? You know, every week and stay cheerful.
It's. I think it's a lot easier because I'm so high in the polls, because it means the people get it. The people see it's a fraud. The people see it, like this horrible district attorney from just a little while ago, from essentially Atlanta, that's Fulton County. She said, basically, I don't have any right to challenge an election. Well, what about Stacey Abrams? What about Hillary Clinton? What about all of these Democrats that are still challenging my election? The same people that are saying he's challenging an election challenged my election. And they did it with slates. They did it with all sorts of things. They were very bad about it. But basically, they're suing me and they're saying you don't have any right to challenge it. If you challenge an election,
they
we're
haven't
going
updated
to
the polls
indict
yet.
you and put you in jail. So what they're doing is they've weaponized, and don't kid yourself, the DOJ and Biden and the whole group, they're watching all of this stuff. They love the local stuff. You know, the DA in Manhattan. Not only that, they put one of the DOJ top people into the Manhattan DA's office to run things. They don't even have a case against me. It's not even a case. Everyone says, even the Democrats say,
that shit was already
dismissed. You can't bring
though.
these cases. You have no case. The attorney general or the district attorney, Fannie Willis in Atlanta, she's getting killed. Basically, she's saying Trump doesn't have the right to criticize an election. But you've been around long enough now. You've seen many elections criticized. I mean, Hillary Clinton goes crazy every time she talks.
Honestly,
she says,
with this Trump case, she should probably recuse herself because she's trying to charge him under the RICO Act when she herself is known to be sexually intimate with gang members, known gang members. Oh, it's different. My bad.
President Jimmy Carter said, he's not the president. Well, I am the president. Hillary Clinton called me, by the way, at 3:02 in the morning to congratulate me the night of the election.
Did her voice crack?
Well, her voice was, it's very different, I will say. I won't get into that. But
what do you mean?
Her voice was very different.
Yeah, but then she claimed the election was
they
stolen.
were all celebrating at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I came home and I said, I think we won. I felt we won because the rallies are so big. We'd go to Wisconsin and we'd go to Georgia. We'd go to different states. In Michigan, we'd have rallies. In Pennsylvania, we had 58,000 people in Butler. And I said, how are we losing this? How do you have a rally where you have from 50 to 100,000 people, many of them? I did 7 a day for a couple of days. That's a lot. That's a lot. These are big rallies too. And I didn't hold back. I didn't say, let's make them let's do abbreviations, right? But they challenged this stuff. Yeah. Hillary called me up and conceded. Now, the word is that Obama said you have to do that. But she called up and totally conceded. But now, every time you see her on television, she's saying she's challenging the election.
Do you think
so? That would mean that she should be indicted.
Yep.
But that would mean also that Stacey Abrams in Georgia should be indicted because she still thinks she won the election for governor. She still thinks that. She's never recanted.
What's her face in Arizona?
Do you think Stacey Abrams will be indicted for that?
No, of course not. She won't be. The Democrats don't get indicted for things like that. They don't get impeached. No, it's a different thing. With that being said,
yes,
I had great support when they did impeachment hoax #1 and impeachment hoax #2. Jim Jordan, the House was fantastic. And actually the Senate was very good for me, other than, Mitch McConnell. I think if he had, it's too bad I endorsed him. He was begging, he was going to lose that race and I endorsed him and he ended up winning the race.
Same with DeSantis.
Because of my endorsement. He was down, he was going to lose to Amy McGrath. She was $90 million in cash, all set to go. She was leading by 3. He was going down. I did him a favor. And then 3-4 months later, he really wanted to impeach me. He's a bad guy. But if you look at what's going on politically, it's so interesting. The level of loyalty is different in politics than it is in normal life, I will say. With that being said, I've had great loyalty also.
Politics always trying to stab you in the back.
The House was fantastic. The Senate was very good. They overrode Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, in my opinion, was trying to get senators to impeach me, especially for the second one. And on the first one, he acted very, very slow. He should have gone much faster. But Mitch McConnell wanted to, and the senators went up to him, guys that are subservient to him because he gives money. He gives them money. He gives them a lot of money. He raises some money and he gives it to them, and therefore they do what he said. That's the only form of leadership he's got.
So last question. If you're elected president again, what's your number one priority? When you ran last time, you said, I will build a wall. This time, your bottom line top promise to the country.
So you can do numerous things at the same time.
Of course.
But let's say number one is a border and taking hundreds of thousands of criminals that have been allowed into our country and getting them out and bringing them back to their country, Guatemala. By the way, not only the 4 countries that we think of as neighbors, all over the world. Last month, we had 149 countries represented. Think of it. We had 149 countries represented, Tucker, from places that many people never even heard of, coming into our country. And they're coming in from mental institutions and they're coming in from prisons. They're emptying out their prisons all over South America. They're emptying out their mental institutions. Terrorists are pouring into our country. We have no idea. I had the strongest border in the history of our country, and I built almost 500 miles of wall. They like to say, oh, was it less? No, I built 500 miles. In fact, if you check with the authorities on the border, we built almost 500 miles of wall, and I had another 200 that I was going to build. It's like water, it seeks. And we're going to build another 200. We built it. It was all set to go. All they had to do was install it. It would have taken 3 weeks. And that's when I found out. I think these people actually want open borders. The first thing I would do would be I would seal up the border good and tight, except for people that want to come in legally.
Do you think we're moving towards civil war?
Yes.
There's tremendous passion and there's tremendous love. January 6th was a very interesting day because they don't report it properly.
Mm-mm.
I believe it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. And you know some of the crowds I've spoken before. And like July 4th on the mall, I think they had 1 million people there. But I think that the biggest crowd I've ever spoken before was on January 6th. And people that were in that crowd, a very, very small group of people, and we said patriotically and peacefully and patriotically, right? Nobody ever says that. Go peacefully and patriotically. But people that were in that crowd that day, very small group of people, went down there, and then there are a lot of scenarios that we can talk about.
Then the feds, Ray Epps.
People in that crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that crowd. There was love and unity. I have never seen such spirit and such passion and such love. And I've also never
were in New
seen
York City on
simultaneously and
September
from the
12th,
same people
2001.
such hatred of what they've done to our country.
So do you think it's possible that there's open conflict? We seem to be moving towards something.
I don't know, because I don't know what it, I can say this. There's a level of passion that I've never seen. There's a level of hatred that I've never seen, and that's probably a bad combination.
Donald Trump, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you.
That is a bad combination, by the way.
Bad combination. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Mr. Trump. The only thing I said I really don't like is, I think if he wanted to make it better, because this was a pre-recorded interview before the debate, kind of wanted him to, go through the debate with them at the same time, but not being there because obviously he doesn't want to be there. I mean, he obviously thinks he's going to win the Republican nomination. He needs to be careful though, because I think Vivek's coming up quicker than he thinks. And I'm thinking more of the youth now are starting to resonate with Mr. Ramaswamy. And with that youth, so are a lot of Gen Xers and millennials. So this will be interesting. Who's going to go out and vote? Probably not the younger generation yet, because they won't vote until the presidential nomination or the actual presidential elections. Man, you guys got to vote in these primaries. Check your state. Their primaries are always posted. And do some research on your candidates. That being said, I'm not telling you how to think, because you'd be called crazy and put in a loony bin if I told you how to think. I'm just telling you to think. And I'm your number one host on the Ministry of Truth. And I'll see you when I see you later today, probably.